Today on Duality Gamecast, we react to the Origin Awards.
Welcome to Duality Gamecast. I'm Matt.
And I'm William.
Today we're taking a special look at the recently announced Origin Game Fair Awards. These awards come out of the Origins Game Fair convention. This is an annual convention, takes place in the summer. It just happened June 3rd through 7th this year. They have awards in a lot of different categories. Those awards are based on games from the previous year, so 2014. Why they come out halfway through, the reasoning there is, give people some time to play and absorb and evaluate these games. And then we'll rate them. The awards are decided by Academy. It's a semi-exclusive membership of industry people who vote on
Makes sense.
the nominees and the ultimate winner. But they also do a People's Choice Award where people attending the convention get to pick who they think was going to be the winner. There were a ton of games that came out in 2014, a ton of notable games. They have a lot of different categories. We're going to focus on two big ones, more relevant to our show for sure. Best board game and best card game.
Okay.
They have other ones for role-playing supplements, miniature lines, miniature rules, board gaming, historical, etc., etc. Not exactly our wheelhouse, so we'll stay away from those. So I want to start with best board game. Okay.
All right.
The nominees for best board game were Abyss, Battle of Five Armies, Cash and Guns 2nd Edition, and Sheriff of Nottingham. The winner was Sheriff of Nottingham.
Okay.
The People's Choice winner was Dead of Winter.
Not even on the nominee list.
What do you think about that?
I guess this is what you get when you get like Academy versus People's Choice, and there's pros and cons for both. I like Sheriff of Nottingham. I like Dead of Winter. I personally don't think Sheriff of Nottingham was the best board game of last year. I don't know if I even want to put it on like the list of best board games from last year, personally. I mean, there's some of the big ones. I mean, there's Five Tribes. That one was a big one for us. We liked it. King of New York. That one came out. Big one I think that we both really love, Zaya. That, if I'm going to put stuff, I'm thinking I'm putting that one at number one for last year for sure. It's a more indie game. I don't know if that has anything to do with how they rate stuff. I don't know if they're only going stuff from like major industry or not. I'm not sure. But Sheriff of Nottingham was a fun game. I can't imagine putting it as the best board game overall for the whole year. I mean, maybe a party game. Maybe if they had some type of like diplomacy or like interactive game type division, but just best overall, I feel like there's a lot more games that I would consider to be board games that I would put far above it.
Yeah, they have a party game category. It's a weird catch-all category. It's children, family, party game category. How Sheriff of Nottingham and Cash and Guns landed in the board game category and not in that one, I don't really understand. There are a ton of... 2014 was a great year. I mean, if you like games, no matter what your taste, there was something you probably enjoyed that came out that year. You listed a lot, but there were some big ones, other big ones. Dice Masters was huge. Legendary Encounter Aliens.
Oh, yeah.
Doomtown Reloaded. One Night Ultimate Werewolf was a huge game. Some other... Heroes of Normandy, Alchemist, Camel Up, which we didn't really like, but it was very popular. We played a ton of Imperial Assault, Star Wars Imperial Assault. So it was a huge, big game year. So I'm really surprised. I'm okay with Dead of Winter, like you said, for sure. But yeah, Sheriff of Nottingham is okay. Put it on the list, fine. But number one, no.
Well, it shows like a disconnect, I feel. If like the People's Choice
is a meteor game.
It wasn't even on the list. And, I mean, you can have People's Choice stuff that gets really weird and wonky and off and stuff like that, but it's weird that the Academy group didn't even select it as on. I mean, to me, that should have at least been nominated. Because, I mean, not only do I think it's a great game, it's been talked about for forever. Sheriff Nottingham is big in small circles, but it's not as big, popular, or as gamery of a game as that is.
Yeah, I'm sure it was a great seller, but so was Dead of Winter. I mean, they ran out of print runs multiple times. All right, so let's talk about the next category, Best Card Game. The nominees were Among the Stars,
Okay.
Linko,
Yeah, I'm not sure what that is. I'm sorry, that's my fault.
Star Realms,
Okay.
and Splendor. The winner was Splendor, and the People's Choice was Star Realms.
Okay. So the People's Choice was a card game. The Academy's Choice was a board game.
Yeah, a board game with cards in it.
With cards in it. I mean, that's confusing because it's like set collection, I guess, is what they're thinking of, that component of it. When I play Splendor, I am not thinking that it's a card game. I like it. It was the first review we ever did. It's the first game we decided we wanted to do reviews for. It's like every dice with a dice in it is not a dice game.
Yeah.
What was Among the Stars, or the other one you said? And that one's technically like a tile.
Yeah, it's tiled. It's a deck building game, but it's tiles, basically.
So then, like, you should throw in other things like Dice Masters and stuff like that into it too if you're going to make it that broad. Or are they just saying that card... Okay, well, let's not... So for me, thinking along those lines, some other cool card games, right? We had Legendary Encounters come out last year. That was awesome. A lot of fun.
Yeah.
100% card game.
Yeah.
Doomtown Reloaded released last year, right?
LCG.
Yeah. I'm assuming it goes... Because they have a collectible version, like, award too.
It did not get nominated.
Okay, so it should have been in one of those more than likely.
Yeah. Imperial Settlers, which...
I mean, if you're going to say that, if you're going to say Splendor is a card game, then definitely Imperial Settlers is a card game.
You're shuffling the deck and drawing.
Yeah. I agree with People's Choice Award. Star Realms to me was a surprise for what it was. Yeah. It's an amazing game.
And it had a huge impact on the convention circuit last year.
I can see, like, I can understand, for instance, Doomtown Reloaded not being on the list. I think we were a little bit underwhelmed with it, but
yeah, it did do a lot for us.
But at the same time, the game that won wasn't a card game. I don't know what they must have some really set strict rules, like most of the components have to be cards or something like that. Because it's true, there's cards laying out, but that's not. It's not a card game as if you're playing stuff from your hand or doing stuff with your card. I don't know. Yeah, I personally would have probably gone Legendary Counters probably as to me like a card game that really broke and. I guess they're going best, but to me that's the most interesting and exciting one that came out. It was the most off of anything else I've played.
Yeah, because Star Realms is a riff on Ascension, basically. So they did great things with it, but Legend Encounters was, also, I guess, kind of a riff on Marvel.
yeah, Legendary.
But so much better.
Yeah, and so much more, too. I mean, it was a completely card-driven game that had a little bit of story to it. It had... you went through the parts of the movies with it. There was a lot of depth to it.
Mm-hmm.
It was an amazing card game that, even though it had that legendary engine on it, it completely took it to a whole other level.
Yeah,
I would have definitely put it on this list, and I definitely wouldn't even have put Splendor on this list as a card game.
No.
I mean, you could throw it maybe in best board game or something like that because of like how much it came to the table. But
yeah, Among the Stars is not a card game.
No,
it's has kind of a deck building feel. But you're building a physical tableau out of tiles. It's not a card game. Imperial Settlers has too much spatial stuff going on.
All these goods you're playing.
And kind of a little bit of a worker placement, resource gathering mechanic. It doesn't feel like a true card game to me. It feels like a board game that uses a lot of cards.
Yeah.
If we're going to look at Doomtown Reloaded, Legendary Encounters, and Star Realms, I like all those games. And I think they all took some, either a previous version or some other game that they're related to and made a better one.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd have to go with Legendary Encounters because I think it was the most impressive of those.
Yes.
As far as improving or building upon something else. I don't get Splendor at all. I love Splendor.
Yeah.
I don't get it at
call
It's
it.
one of those. I mean, and this is what I guess you get with anytime you do awards things. It's like you get stuff, and it's like where do you draw the line and where the specifications are. I don't know if they have hard and fast rules for this stuff. If they're like certain percentage of components have to be something to be cards or something like that, or if it's kind of they're pulling it by their gut. Because I feel like what happens is that then you end up with Splendor, which is a great game that probably couldn't have won best board game because there was other games out there that maybe would do it. So I feel like it's something that got like sideways into another category that maybe didn't have as much competition with it in terms of how much people would vote for it. Because, there's a lot of people that probably haven't played any other, like there's a lot of board gamers that maybe haven't played any other card games. Yeah. So they're looking at the list and they go like, oh, best card game, I don't know, that game was dumb. Ooh, Splendor, I love that game, it's in. And no one's thinking, wait a minute, that's not really a card game.
But that makes me wonder how this Linko game got on there. Because
that's true, because it's
Linko. Sorry, I don't know what that is.
Maybe it's the hottest thing ever and we're just out of the loop, but I haven't seen it.
Didn't Red 7 come out in 2014?
Bet you. You know what? I know we got ours in 2014. I know we got it pretty soon.
If Red 7 came out in 2014, it definitely trumps Splendor for best card game. I mean, maybe not some of those other games we mentioned, but definitely. This is bothering me now. Okay, so those are the two main categories. They have, like I said, they have a lot of different categories. They did have a collectible card game category, which Magic Cons of Tarkir, I think, won. And that's a weird one too, because that's an expansion. And it's not the collectible card game expansion category. And yet they have a role-playing supplement category. And I don't know, it seems like compromises are being made in their categories because, well, there aren't a lot of collectible card games, so what are we going to do?
Because Magic is crushing everything.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Like, there's only so much space for those types of things. Because do you know what? Because wasn't like a Pokemon on that?
There was like a Pokemon expansion. There was this game called Spoils, which I think was made by some Magic pros that, no offense, didn't go anywhere.
Which is okay. It's okay for a game maybe not to have been popular, but to be good and be on the list. Yeah. But yeah, because it'd be like what happens if they make an expansion for Splendor this year.
Yeah,
and then does that win best card game again? Yeah, it's a weird thing because like, do you count expansions for regular board games in this? And while I realize that this isn't a life or death situation, it just seems like there's a lot of stuff going on here where maybe they need to hammer it out a little bit more. Because it's just, if you're doing awards, and the Origins Awards feel like they should be a big deal.
Yeah.
So it almost seems like they should really make sure that the ones that are in the categories match the categories 100%.
Especially since it's one of these academy-based award systems where it's industry insiders who are picking these things. So to look legitimate, in my opinion, they need to have some pretty strong, clear rules. Or, who knows, what's going on otherwise. There's some other weird ones. They have this, as I mentioned before, child/family/party game category.
Okay.
Which, all right, I don't know why they couldn't separate. Why couldn't child family be one and party game be another? But how did Cash and Guns 2nd Edition and Sheriff of Nottingham get on the best board game category and not party game? Right? Because those are two really good party games in my opinion. And they flipped that around, and one of the nominees in that category was the Archer game, which, okay, fine, but it's definitely not a child or family-friendly game at all. I mean, Archer is very adult. So what a weird category to construct. They need more rules. I think they need clear rules, or they need an arbiter who's, oh, I'm sorry, I'm rejecting that nomination. It just doesn't make any sense.
Or like moving it to the category that it belongs to in some way. And that's what it gets back to my previous point was that what's happening, I think, is that like, I'm assuming that things probably can't get nominated for multiple awards. I'm assuming
it must be, because why else would they have these weird lineups?
Because and that's what I'm saying. Like, it feels like best board game had a set number of positions it could have open. So if those filled up with kind of like industry favorites, then what happens is like games like once again like our game Zaya or Five Tribes, which I think was an amazing game.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of the other ones don't end up having spots there, and they maybe don't fit a certain subgenre. But like well, King of Tokyo has cards. Could it go in the card-based one, or should it be called a dice? I mean, do they have a dice category one? And that seems like one that
you might have to.
Yeah. And so I think what we're doing here is we're just trying to point out some thoughts we had, not so much harping on Origins as a whole, but it just feels like maybe they should post something to the public, something for people to try to decide like what actually good categories there would be. I mean, I guess it's a trade fair, so they're going for like.
It's not a trade fair exactly. It's owned by Gamma, the industry trade organization, but it's intended to be their convention that's open to everyone. So
okay.
So it's meant to be more inclusive than Gamma. The Gamma trade show is very exclusive. It's press and industry people. Origins is supposed to be like the flip side of that. Everyone comes and plays games and meets publishers.
Okay.
It's kind of the kid brother to Gen Con. I want to go someday. We're going to Gen Con this year. Real excited about that. And maybe next year we should go to Origins. It's meant to be more casual than Gen Con. Maybe they need a Game of the Year category. You know what I mean?
So like one that isn't necessarily best, but one that
it doesn't have to be a certain type of game. Mm-hmm. It's just the Game of the Year. You know what I mean? Because then maybe they could have more hard and fast rules in these other categories and eliminate questionable nominees. But then, okay, well, a lot of people support it, put it in Game of the Year category or something.
Yeah, and the same thing, like they could add like a, most innovative mechanic or something. Like I realize they start getting kind of esoteric and everything with them, but it would allow them to do things where I think that sometimes with this type of stuff is that maybe something's winning an award position because like, oh yeah, that game was so cool how they did this. Mm-hmm. So I want to vote it as the best, even though maybe it wasn't the best game, but there was some really cool shining aspect of it that like makes people feel like they need to award it. So
mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Well, that was our reaction to the Origins Awards, particularly those two, the best board game, best card game categories, with a little trivia on the side. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Like I said, we're going to Gen Con this year, so expect a lot of on-the-spot reaction from that trip. Thank you, and see you next time.
Thank you. How you doing, sexy?